Carolyn Kidd, Chair, I'm here. Sandra Darling,
Hi, I am here and I will be on screen in like 10 minutes. Sorry and thank you.
wonderful. Manny Hernandez,
Here. Thank you.
Selena Martinez,
I'm present.
Mandy Martinez Gebler,
I'm here.
Mindy Resenberg,
Here.
Angelica Sanchez.
Present.
Hi, great. Everyone is here. So let's move on to the mission statement and land acknowledgement. The mission statement is a commission to foster support, respect, awareness, and appreciation of diversity among all citizens of Flagstaff. Mindy, do you mind, Commissioner Resenberg, do you mind reading the land acknowledgement for us today?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
The Commission on Diversity Awareness humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, item number 4, upcoming opportunities and announcements. Any announcements from the commissioners?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and chime in like I always do, plugging all of our free events downtown. So our next one is going to be next Thursday, April 24th, starting at 7 p.m. at Starlight in the Square. It's a totally free event to attend. We're going to have like 6 to 10 telescopes in the square. We're turning off all the lights in Heritage Square, and we're going to be doing, in addition to the telescope viewing, some education as well as laser guided tours with the Dark Sky Coalition. So all of that's totally free. There is food and beverages available for purchase, but it's free for anyone in the community. Anyone can attend. So feel free to stop out.
Thank you. That sounds exciting. I want to go. I want to go. Anybody else?
Chairman,
Ms.
could I can
Carolyn,
highlight one, or I'll go ahead and I'll let Kim go
sorry.
first. So
No worries. Good afternoon, everyone. Kim Robinson, I'm the project coordinator for the Live Black Experience project in this capacity. And we have some community events going on. Puente de Hojo Bilingual Magnet School on 424 as well. We're having dinner with Dad. That is a community dinner that we try to do monthly. That is from approximately 4:30 to 6:30. And then after that, we're going to tell everybody to head downtown and do some really cool stuff after that. Um, and that's at Puente de Hojo on 4th Street. On Sunday, 4/27, the Live Black Experience Project is having its community Sunday dinner. The theme this month is the chili dinner, and that's from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Sunnyside Market of Dreams, also on 4th Street behind Fratelli Pizza. Look for the purple door. And in addition, Clark Homes is having a community cookout that LVE is assisting with on June 17th. I believe that's a Wednesday, and that there's more information coming with that. So that'll be at Clark Homes by Thorpe Park. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chris.
she actually covered it. I was going to talk about the Live Black Experience dinner, so she got it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is so funny. Great. Oh, you just have to say ditto, right?
Yeah,
Just ditto.
works for me.
Good.
Ditto.
Yeah. Great. All right. So let's move on to public comment. Item number 5. The Commission cannot act upon items presented during the public participation portion of the agenda. Individual Commission members may ask questions of the public, but are prohibited by the open meeting law from discussion or considering the item among themselves until the item is officially placed on the agenda. Each public comment or presentation will be limited to 5 minutes. Do we have any public comment today? Chris, are you seeing any in the chat or? No?
Not seeing any, no.
All right. Hearing none, let's go ahead and move on to item number 6, approval of minutes. All right, commissioners, do you have any adjustments or any edits for approval of minutes for 3/19/2025?
This is Commissioner Riesenberg. I do. Once again, my name is spelled wrong. I don't know if that's even a big deal or not, but
It is a deal. It's a big deal. It's your name.
Commissioner Riesenberg, I'm so sorry. I always say in my mind to type the I and the E, and I think that my Word document just flips it automatically because it's used to it. And I often don't catch it when I read through. So I'm so sorry about that. I'll go through and just do a Control F on the whole document for it, make sure I fix it for you.
Great, thank you.
It is a big deal. Right. So I do little typos. Under item number 4, the second to last line where read that Commissioner Martinez for the awkward welcome she received last week. I think it should be like last meeting instead of last week.
It could be correct as well, yes.
Yeah, last meeting.
Yeah.
Right. And then under 8B, Councilwoman House, so just a capital H for her name.
Thank you.
House.
I like that you all read the meetings. It's always fun for once a month to go through it all. It tells me that you're doing your homework.
Yeah,
So thank you for that.
We're doing something right. And under D, under update from Council Liaison, there's some X's at the bottom there. I'm not sure if it was not supposed to be there or if something missing. 3 X's.
Well, I'm writing them down. So item 4,
Yeah,
where
that's
you
fine.
wanted to refer to the last meeting.
Under D, updates from the Council Liaison.
Okay.
At the end has 3 X's.
Is there a number before that?
Oh yeah. So I'm sorry. 8.
Okay, 8D.
8D. Yes, 8D.
Okay.
Yes. And number 10 for adjournment. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do we usually put a time when the meeting is adjourned?
I do. Sometimes I don't have that in the mid. If I do it in live time, I can tell sometimes. But if I go back at the recording, it's difficult to tell sometimes. So I don't want to put it incorrectly, but I can usually tell within a minute or two. I'm not always 100% certain. Sometimes I just say the meeting is adjourned. I can go back and look to see if I omitted, I can look to see.
Right, because I usually would say it. So yeah, just a thing. And that's me, fussy me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Anybody else? All right, may I get a motion to approve minutes of 3/19/2025 with correction?
I'll go ahead and motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Commissioner Sanchez here. I second that.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstain? All right, I think we have one to abstain, right? That is Commissioner Reisenberg. All right.
I think she was it
was
a
the
voice
first
vote. So we.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That is fine. Voice vote. Okay.
And Terry, that's a voice vote, so you don't have to go person by person. As long as there's a majority, we can just say approved by majority in a voice vote. And
Okay, good.
We can move on from that.
Thank you. Thank you for your guidance. See, what would I do without you? Motion carried by voice vote. All right.
Perfect.
Let's go to action items. Number 7, let's talk about a proclamation. So we have 2 proclamations today, one from the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and also Jewish Heritage Month. So commissions, did you get a chance to look at the draft? Do you have anything to add, edit, or do you have any comments?
You can put them on the screen here as well. That's the Word document, not the PDF. Sorry about this. Looking for the right document to put up on the screen. Did I include a PDF in our agenda, or is it a Word document? Because I'm only seeing a PDF all of a sudden, or a Word document.
Let's see what I have here.
And in either case, I can just put it up here as the.
I have a Word document.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, here we go then. Meant to PDF that, and I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Go. All right. It's a proclamation for NHPI Heritage Month.
Yes.
And this is largely the same as we had last year. The only difference for it is that it updated some of the language for the theme of this year and whatnot. And I also ran this by Mark Cox from Boys and Girls Clubs, who we spoke with last year in this, and he had no suggested edits to it.
Okay, great. My only edit was a very large font down at the end. I think that was just probably in.
Yeah,
that was it.
we send this off to the deputy city clerk, and she formats them all the same way. So this is what she's given me as a template. So I'm just trying not to change it.
Okay. Commissioners, the floor is open if you have anything to add, suggest, or any comment before we send it off.
That all looks great to me. Thank you.
Looks good to me too. All right, Chris, let's go ahead and pull up the other one for Jewish Heritage.
Could I get a vote to recommend this to council?
Oh, I thought we were going to go ahead and discuss both and then have one vote.
Oh, we can do that as well. That works. That works fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll give a short background on the second one here. This is a Jewish American Heritage Month, and this is one that we have not done in the past. But when we reviewed our calendar some months back, it was recommended that we add this one. So I looked around. We reached out to the local Chabad, and they did not respond to anything, unfortunately. So I was not able to get their thoughts on the language itself. I'm hoping that I can still reach out to them before it would be in front of council. And so I'll note that I wrote this one myself. I did look at some of the ones that were done by other cities and by previous years of the President of the United States. So I took a lot of that language and I tried to draft a version that was as local as possible and talked about the history as possible without being too political in any kind of a way that I thought could create a bit of animosity or anything with it. But in either case, this is the language I have for this one, and I'm more than willing to entertain any suggestions anybody has.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this as somebody who is Jewish. Yeah, you don't want to get political, but I do appreciate that you did add the serving as an antidote to anti-Semitism. And I believe that is part of the official language being used for the national work of
it
this.
Is.
So, yeah.
And it was also very common in other ones that they're done at local levels. So I did keep that language in. I did remove a lot of other ones had a lot longer language about current events and whatnot, and I tried to remove most of those. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I think this is very good and neutral, but still, acknowledging the anti-Semitism that is going on right now. So, yeah.
Okay.
I think it was well done, and knowing that it's the first, I think was well done, and pulling from the Library of Congress and all of that too. So, yeah, good job, Chris. Thank you. I think it's good for me.
I do want to highlight one thing that just because I came across it as I was drafting this a few weeks ago, is that the current month, April, is Arab American Heritage Month, and we did not do a proclamation for it. And it was not intentional. I know none of us meant to do that, but I came across that information as I was doing the research for this. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and can note that we can add that to the calendar for next year, but wanted to just make a note of that. Yeah.
I recall at a past meeting bringing that up and adding it to the list.
Was that? I did not have it on the list. I can look back at the
Many months
minutes.
ago, I mentioned that
Okay.
that needed to be on there as well.
Well, okay. That may have been my fault, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was not on our proclamation calendar. I'll make sure it is going forward, but
okay, because
that occurred to me.
That'll look one-sided, and then you could have some issues.
And that was the reason I wanted to just mention it.
So as we are discussing this, because I noticed that too, is it too late to do one? I'm throwing it out there.
Let's see. It is April 16th right now. And that's in 2006. Thank you, Councilman House. It's April 16th right now. If you would like, you could instruct me to draft one. I could go through and do a similar thing, maybe send something out to you all via email that would not be in any kind of public meeting or anything, just so that you were in the know. It would not be a vote from the commission at that point, because we wouldn't want to violate any open meeting laws, but I could try to talk to Tiffany to see if we could get a proclamation for that before the end of this month. And I think that would have to be 2 weeks from now. Let's see, which would be the 29th of April. I could attempt to do that if you all would like me to go forward with that. I'm happy to do that work.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I think it would have to be either trying to get it on for next week or the first week of May, because the 29th is the 5th Monday or the 5th Tuesday, and I don't think we'll be meeting.
You're correct. It is next
week.
Is next week a work session or a council meeting?
That is a very good question. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up quickly here.
Pull up a copy. If I had any screen space available, I could pull up a copy of the working calendar and see what it says on there as well. But if it's a work meeting or a work session, we should be able to do it, because today should be the cutoff for it. And a proclamation is usually pretty easy to slip in there. But
yeah, this Tuesday was a regular meeting, so I think that makes next Tuesday a work session.
It would. So I can follow this meeting, and as soon as it's over, I can submit that through agenda real quick. And usually our clerk's team is pretty okay with me submitting a document, and I could probably do that by tomorrow, and just have it be 1 day late, and it would still be in there in time before the agenda packet goes out to all of council, and we could make sure that gets done in the month of April.
Great, thank you. And my apologies as well. I know that it had been brought up before, and I forgot to bring it up when we were talking about this month's agenda. So that's not all on you. I forgot about it as well.
Yeah, I remember talking about it. I remember it somewhere. And when I was researching myself, for some of the wording for the Jewish American Heritage Month, just, it's the first time I noticed that. I was like, oh, so let's talk about that. So thank you so much for bringing it up. And so definitely we're going to have a draft for that one. So let me go ahead and put a motion out there for the three proclamations. I'll put a motion out there to approve the Jewish American Heritage Month proclamation, and also the Asian American Pacific Islander, Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month proclamation, and also what would the name? Is it the Arab Heritage Month?
It would be Arab American Heritage Month.
Arab American Heritage Month. Yes, we want to go ahead and second that to move it forward for these three proclamations.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Commissioner Riesenberg, sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? All right, the ayes have it. Motion carried. Thank you so much, Chris, for having this conversation, and also Commissioner Councilwoman House. Okay. All right, so let's move on to 7B, where we want to nominate a CODA member for the Multicultural County Park exhibition. I think we had someone who was interested.
This was the art. Which thing was this? Hold on, let me find the.
Yes, I believe it was the art installation.
Yes,
at
the art installation.
Archuleta Park.
Right.
The
Right.
beautification.
I'm going anyhow, regardless, because my friend Joe has one of his works of art in that installation. So I can definitely be there, but if anybody else would like to, that's great too.
So this was to participate in the choosing of the exhibitions that would happen next year.
Okay.
One of the reviewers.
Yeah, I served last year, so I wouldn't nominate myself for this year, but I do believe maybe Commissioner Hernandez had volunteered for it.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to serve. I've served in a number of art panels already in the city, and I always love doing it. So I'd be more than happy to take that on.
Okay, so we have our nomination and acceptance. Commissioner Hernandez. Anybody else interested? I served on the panel about 2 moons ago, so.
This is Commissioner Martinez. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely interested if there's space to, but I know we just needed the one CODA member, so kind of however that's fitting.
I think we had an alternate the last time, though. I think we did have an alternate last time when I served. Commissioner Tona was my alternate at the time, so I think we can have an alternate.
Okay, yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
All right, so now, Chris, do we have to vote on this?
I could be picky and get a quick voice vote. I would really appreciate
Okay.
it.
All right. All right. So I want to have a motion for Commissioner Hernandez being our representative of CODA for the Multicultural County Park exhibition, and Commissioner Martinez our alternate. May I have a motion? Okay, I'll make that motion. May I have a second?
Commissioner Sanchez here, I second that.
Well, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Commissioner Hernandez and Commissioner Martinez, for taking the flag for us. Thank you. I know you will enjoy it. Okay, item number 8, reports, discussion items. We do have a presentation today from sustainability staff on micro mobility share. Take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be Jenny Neiman and myself. I'll go ahead and pull up the presentation if I could share my screen.
And while Jamie's pulling it up here, I can just give a quick introduction here to Jamie Larson and Jenny Neiman, who are both from our sustainability. It's a division, right? At this point, it's not a section or a department. We don't have departments, so it's a Jamie is our housing and transportation Vista, and Jenny Neiman is the deputy director of our sustainability department or division. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm the housing and transportation Vista, and yeah, Jenny Neiman's the climate action section director.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us, and feel free to go ahead and take it away here.
Cool. Yeah. So today we're talking about micromobility share in Flagstaff. So our agenda, we're going to go a little bit of defining what micromobility share is, why we are interested in micromobility share, along with some of the research that we've done in some of our peer cities and how they've operated these micromobility share programs. And then lastly, kind of what it could look like in Flagstaff. So to begin, this is kind of like a little timeline of where we've been at with this program. So the first time micromobility share came to Flagstaff was in 2018. There was a 6-month pilot program. And then in 2020, we signed a contract with Gotcha Mobility. However, this contract was broken due to COVID-19. Oops. Hold on, straight to the next slide. There we go. So the current code in Flagstaff does permit micromobility share operators to come to Flagstaff. However, there isn't really a process yet for how we are getting these operators here. And there are operators who are interested in coming to Flagstaff. So after 2020, when that initial contract was broken, we have now returned to council February 2025 and received direction from city council to re-begin this conversation and kind of start exploring if and how we would like micromobility share to come to Flagstaff. So micromobility share basics. So micromobility share is these small, lightweight means of getting around. It is publicly available, usually for short-term use, and they're operated in multiple jurisdictions and parked in the right-of-way of public spaces. So you can see this picture is on NAU campus. There is a lot of electric scooters, e-bikes already going around Flagstaff. So just to be clear, micromobility is already here. We're just simply discussing whether we want operators and businesses to come to Flagstaff. So why micromobility share? Micromobility share has a lot of climate benefits. In the 2023 report with National Association of City Transportation Officials, it indicated that there is 81 million pounds of carbon emissions offset by micromobility trips. In addition, it reduces congestion in traffic and reduces pressure on downtown parking areas. It encourages physical activity and is also an affordable means of transportation. The average mid-sized car costs about $12,000 annually, while micromobility share membership is only about $100 to $300 to have a membership for the year. In addition, it encourages eco-friendly tourists as a way of getting around and can also be a selling point for increased marketing and partnerships. All right, so there are several guiding documents that do support the idea of micromobility share. So in Metro Plan Stride Forward, it indicates a need to decrease our vehicle miles traveled, as well as showing that we do need a transportation behavior change. In the Active Transportation Master Plan, it indicates the need to optimize existing infrastructure and to enhance mobility choices. The Regional Transportation Master Plan shows that we need to promote strategies to increase alternative modes of transportation and expand these energy efficient modes of travel. In addition, the Carbon Neutrality Plan indicating that we need to go carbon neutral by 2030, and that the travel sector is a large contributor to greenhouse gases. So this could be a way, and the Carbon Neutrality Plan specifically mentions the need to launch a new micromobility share program. In addition, micromobility can be a way to kind of help solve these like first and last mile solutions with the bus system. So highlighted in that kind of like brown orangish color, these are places that have requested more stops and more service from the bus line, but because of density, it is not feasible. So this is where micromobility could come into play to be able to connect people in those areas with bus stops. All right, and now I'll hand it over to Jenny Neiman to go over, oh wait, no, hold on 1 second, sorry. I will do the peer city research. So going into some of our research with peer cities, there are two different models. So you can either do city operated. This is kind of how micromobility began in 2010, as well as third party operated, which is the most common in 2025. So this graph here showing the cities, these are the ones that we have reached out to, such as Austin, Bend, Boulder. And then on the right with the graph shows all the places in North America that have a micromobility share program. So there are 421 cities in North America who have this scooter share or bike share system in 2023. And then also I just want to point out that most of these are e-scooters. Most of these programs have both e-scooters and e-bikes, but usually there are more e-scooters than bikes. So here on the left, we can see the average number of active shared scooters available in these peer cities. So you can see the peer cities that have about the same population as Flagstaff are all kind of around that 200 range, 200 to 300 range of scooters available at one time. In addition, on the right, we can see that there is a growth in dockless systems. So when I say dockless, I mean that's not, you don't have to go to a specific place to park your bike or scooter. All right, city investment and the city staff time do differ between these different peer cities. So 6 out of 11 of the cities are repaid through fees built into the contract with the operating company. As far as staff time, each program is different. Fort Collins entered into their request for proposals, a process with SPIN. They have one staff member who dedicates 25% of their time to the program. There's also Santa Monica, who, because they have multiple different vendors, they have one staff member who dedicates 50% of their time, as well as one code enforcement staff who uses a small portion of their time as well. So here we see a graph from the 2018 SPIN pilot program that Flagstaff had. There's about 9,500 total trips. And most of these occurred between the hours of 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. They were shorter distances, averaging less than a mile, and saved about 2.6 thousand pounds of carbon footprint saved. And then you can kind of see, if you think back to the graph with the bus, that where micromobility share is being used is in those areas where there is lack of public transit. All right, so now I'll pass it over to Jenny Neiman with managing the risks and challenges.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Hi, folks. My name is Jenny Neiman. I'm the Climate Action Section Director over in the Sustainability Office. I will say we're representing many right now. So we've been working hard at this group or at this work with Metro Plan as well as Mountain Line as well as NAU. And we're doing a lot of these meetings, which we'll talk about in a bit. But thanks for having us and making time for this. I'm going to talk a little bit about risks and challenges that we know of. Our two partners, Mountain Line and Metro Plan, are two of them, created a feasibility report. I believe it's linked to in your agenda, but if not, we can send it out. And really, it just looked at like, if we're to bring micromobility share back to Flagstaff, and really, it's really allow companies to come back to Flagstaff, what do we need to think about? What do we need to consider? I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because I know you all have a fairly packed agenda, but very happy to start chatting through these during question and answer if needed. And again, there's a lot more information in that feasibility report. The first is just risk management, right? Personal injury. We know that that is something that's important to Flagstaff, is the health and safety of our folks. So how do we think about that? How do we think about safety features, but also how does this change how we work with the contractor? What sort of liability things, what sort of safety requirements do we have, et cetera? Go to the next slide, Jamie. Device parking. So this is one that's come up a lot. where do these devices park? We learned a lot of good lessons when bike share was here in 2018. And there's a lot of strategies to deal with this. I'll go over just the most common one, which is what's called geofence parking. It's not a real fence, but if you look at the picture down there of the bikes, that white box there, that's actually like sort of a virtual fence that says the bikes need to be returned to this place, right? That's a strategy that we can use for downtown. All of the devices have this technology. If you've used one of these devices before, you've likely used it in a similar way. So we can really restrict where trips can be ended. This particularly matters for downtown, as well as NAU, but also anywhere else that we might want to kind of make sure that people are always parking in the right way. That also might be everywhere. Go to the next slide, Jamie. Limited staff time for oversight. So something that we know, as Jamie sort of reviewed, we know that cities have to spend staff time on this. And it's not that people are spending time moving bikes, right? But it is about just oversight and management of the contractor or multiple contractors. And so this is something that we are looking into. We want to make sure we're managing that time. And so that has a lot to do with how we work with the operators, et cetera. Go ahead. Public perception, man, we learned in 2018, change is hard for sure. Folks would call us and say, there's a bike parked there. And, we would say, okay, is there a car parked, next to it? And they would be like, yes. And we were like, okay, it's generally the same thing, but it's different. It's completely new for most folks. And so this is just something that we're really committed to working with our community and all walking together. We know that, if we decide to move forward, and again, this will go back to council, how do we get our community ready for it? How do we get our community trying this, et cetera? How do we walk through change with folks? Next slide. Compliance with bike ordinance. So we know that sometimes Flagstaff isn't the best place to get around. We know that we have sort of tough spots or safety gaps. And so what we want to do is figure out where do these bikes need to go? Where do they not need to go? Bikes or scooters, I should say. How do we think about this? And so this is going to involve a lot of work with the contractor or multiple contractors. And so how do we communicate with folks? You're not allowed to ride a bike on the sidewalk downtown or a scooter, for instance. You're not allowed to ride scooters on the sidewalks right now. So how do we get through all of kind of that communication and making sure that folks are following the rules? Go ahead, Jane. Finally, there's a couple medium risk strategies. Again, we go into these in detail in the feasibility study. And some of them, we'll talk a little bit more about equity, but it's really, we have to think about a lot of stuff, and we are committed to that. Go ahead, Jamie. Specifically on equity, we've heard a lot about this. We thought about this in both our tries in 2018 and much more in 2020 when we tried again. So again, this goes back to working with the company or companies that is operating this. And we're basically saying, if you operate in Flagstaff, this is what we want to require, essentially. And so if we move forward. And so that's just kind of one way. There are a lot of good models all across the country of cities that have done this, that have said, you need to provide cash payment options. You need to provide a subsidized fare, right? If folks have a bus pass, how are we thinking about that? So there's a lot of options there. We're excited to explore it and to keep talking to folks about what we can best do here. All right, so now getting into Flagstaff. We are kind of at a yes or no place right now. We are engaging with the community. As Jamie said, we're going to go back to council probably in the fall. And with kind of everything that we've heard, we're talking to almost all of the commissions, we're talking to community groups, Downtown Business Alliance, et cetera, and trying to say, is this a door that we want to open again? If it's not, we need to change the code, because right now the code essentially says that micromobility vendors can come with a permit. If we do want to move forward, then we need to either create a permit system or create a RFP to allow one vendor. That was what we had done in 2020. And so that's just kind of the crossroads that we're at right now and that we're trying to get public feedback on. Jamie. Just to make it really clear, Jamie talked before about sort of two different types of systems. We are not in a place that we can invest millions of dollars into creating our own bike shared system that's run by the city or Mountain Line. We are in a place, though, to say, if a company wants to come here at their own expense, we would like to, if we move forward, we would like to put together a contract, et cetera. So this is just, the city's job is really that contract enforcement, making sure the laws are being followed, really directing customer service to that operator. And then the operator does generally everything else. They own the bikes, they bring the bikes, they run the app, et cetera. So it's sort of like a rental car company operating in Flagstaff, right? The city's not really involved. It's a little bit more hands-on than that just because these things are a little bit special, but yeah. Go ahead, Jamie. Thank you. So where are we now? We're in engagement. We talked to council briefly just before we kind of started this engagement journey. Once we do this engagement, we'll be building a recommendation for action based off the feedback, based off our research, based off talking to vendors and other companies. And then we'll return to council. And that is where council will say, yes, we want to move forward and this is how, or no, and we want to change the code. And staff is good with either way, but if council directs us to move forward, then we will open a procurement process, select vendors, et cetera. We will try to have community members on that vendor selection, things like that. But that's there's a whole lot of implementation to go, but we've got to talk to folks first. In terms of who we're talking to, trying to talk to everybody. If you have any groups that you think we should go talk to, that you think have like an interest in the go or no go question, that's really important. We'd love to hear it. We'll be talking to folks when we prepare for implementation too, if council directs us to move forward. So, if there are folks that say, yeah, I want to be really involved in like where they get parked, that's a little bit on the implementation side. But if you think there are folks that want to talk about whether we should have this or not, please feel free to give us a shout and we'd be happy to go talk to them. Go ahead, Jamie. All right, so direction and questions that we have for the commission. So we'd love to hear some initial reactions. We'd love to hear if anything we talked about really resonated with you, or if there are things that we're not thinking about in terms of, what we should include in a procurement process in the event that we move forward. What we'll be doing for council is we'll be putting both options together, right? To say, if the answer is no, this is the path, these are all the things. But if the answer is yes, and you want to move forward, this is how. And that how is really where we'd love your feedback. Should the city welcome just one operator or multiple, as there are in some other cities? And how can we ensure equitable access? Jamie, can you go to the next slide really fast? Just real quick, we will have a survey we're hoping to launch on Saturday at Earth Day, in case anyone's planning to be there at Bushmaster Park. It'll be on Connect Flagstaff, which is the city's new engagement platform. And yeah, we'll email you all when we do have that survey out. That's just a way to get a lot more feedback. And then one more slide, mostly just a shout out to the folks from us. It's a big team that's worked on this, and this is along with the NAU team as well, that's been very involved, because NAU will be a partner if we decide to go forward. So, all right, back, Jamie. Thanks y'all so much for your time. We would be happy to take any questions, comments, feedback. We're trying to take it all in.
Great, thank you so much. And go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of give a comment. I do appreciate the fact that you brought up the idea of equity, just because there are a big number of folks within our community that really rely on Mountain Line and those bus passes that you had mentioned. And so really just kind of making sure that that is a big piece of the puzzle when moving forward with all of that, because what was it used? Called it the first and last mile solution. So like, for example, like I know the shelter on Huntington here is like about a mile away from any of the bus stops. So that in itself is already a challenge. So being able to have equitable access for those that are, in the lower socioeconomic or unhoused folks, like all of that stuff is definitely something that I would like to see for sure at the forefront of this. But I appreciate you for adding that in there.
Thank you, Selena. It's really helpful to just hear that feedback and that resonates. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming here and sharing this with us, and asking, for feedback. One of the things, and I don't know if you're already doing this, but one of the things is with all the different construction that is going on right now in the city of Flagstaff, with building flyovers and roundabouts and all these nice things, I just want to make sure that, and you're probably doing this already, if they are putting infrastructure for such of such a type of device or mobile or vehicle. Yeah. Just want to make sure because they're going to make all these lovely adjustments and, put these roundabouts and stuff. And then we have no way to put electric scooters or bikes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chair Kidd. It's a big thing that we're trying to work on, and I appreciate the nudge. I'm actually here in place of one of our transportation planning partners, who are all at the city, the transportation engineers, and we are trying to think about it a lot. All the new infrastructure that's going in will generally have Lone Tree and John Wesley Powell have that foots trail that scooters can ride on or bikes can ride on. So we're trying to think about that, but it's expensive. Just the projects overall, not just the bike and scooter stuff. And it's hard. So we're continuing to push, and the reminders and the pokes are great. One thing we are actually hoping, I just wanted to mention, is because you brought it up, they're going to be closing Milton Road at 66 at some point for construction of the railroad. And we're actually hoping that and it's going to be incredibly hard. And so we're hoping that if we have an option like this here by that time, it's years in the future, but this can be another way, right, for folks to park and then use a bike or a scooter to get around, et cetera. We have a long way to go and a lot of steps to get there, but thank you.
Yeah, good. And I just wanted us to piggyback on Commissioner Martinez with, we do have those persons who, don't have transportation and probably don't have IDs, and I don't know if they're taking credit cards and all of that. So we want to be mindful of the marginalized communities too, and we want to make sure that we are inclusive when we decide to do something like this. Yeah, and that's it. Anybody else?
Yeah, Commissioner Sanchez here. So I really appreciate Commissioner Martinez bringing that up. I was looking at the micro mobility benefits report that had, the comparison regarding affordability. And one thing that stood out to me is, we're saying the range is 100 to 300 annually. I would have liked to see a little bit more data attached to that. So how many rides are we saying are going to equal 100 to 300? I also would have liked to see maybe a hard line just saying it will not cost more than X. I don't know what X is, but I think one thing that could be really helpful towards maintaining that equitability is just making sure that there is a price point where we are saying more than this would not be affordable, and it would not be something that would help our communities. I did really enjoy the slide about the device parking. I think thinking back on 2018, and particularly in my neighborhood, there were a lot of bikes in trees, and there was just a lot of chaos around where folks were leaving those. And to see that you've got strategies around how to mitigate that felt really great. Especially, I liked that incentive piece both ways, right? So for companies and for folks to put them away where they go. But yeah, thank you so much.
And thanks for that feedback on the pricing. And I think that's the exact feedback that we would want to take into a procurement process, right? And really challenge the company that is, again, if council says yes, really challenge the companies to say, what can you provide for us, right? For our community members that really need it, right? What can you do for us? How can you subsidize these rides, et cetera? So this is all incredibly helpful.
Yes, we want to really make sure that it's inclusive and not just, another culture, a subculture within a culture there, and people just left behind. Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and quick jump in. I'd say my initial reactions are good because I actually like using these in other cities. So I get pretty stoked when I'm riding a scooter in, wherever I am. It's pretty fun. I love to travel. I usually travel without a car, so they're great. I've also seen how they can be a huge eyesore in other cities when you have tons of these just everywhere and scattered throughout the streets, and they're just seem to be on every corner, and you can't get through the sidewalks, and it gets to be pretty cluttered. So I would suggest going the route of the RFP and just having one company do it, so then it's a little more uniform and more controlled, and have those designated parking areas. Because I think it's a great idea, but I also think that I have seen it out of hand in other communities. So having those good guidelines, and I think one vendor would be the approach that I would take. But I'll defer to you all.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kepler.
So yeah, I definitely second what Commissioner Hernandez said. Like we go to Ocean Beach in San Diego just about every year, and for a long time they had the scooters there. They had like the birds, the lift scooters. They had quite a few. But what we saw was that over that time period, because we went rather often, that they had the parking and everything, but that people were doing kind of the same thing, just kind of leaving them kicked over in random places. There was so many to choose from that it was kind of hard to figure out what to do. So I agree that if it's something to consider, I would definitely start with one operator, just because the clutter does become overwhelming. I mean, people were just kind of throwing them over railings at points in time to make space. And so, and unfortunately now they don't have them at all because it became so overwhelming with the number of operators that were there. So I definitely think that's, yeah, starting with one and seeing how that goes would probably be the most beneficial, just because, we are such a small town, and overwhelming people with it could potentially create a negative outlook towards it versus seeing how it can be a beneficial thing to Flagstaff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that feedback.
Anybody else?
There's somebody in the chat, a community member.
Oh, good. Helmets. Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. If Chair Kidd, do you mind if I respond?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I didn't want to jump in. Helmets are a huge concern. They're a concern today. Every person I see, I thought I had a good kind of track on of what was going on in Flagstaff, and then I went to the NAU campus and saw like 100 scooters in an hour, and it was like, oh my gosh, the football team has them apparently, and the dance team maybe. So their coaches bought them for. So, anyways, it's right now it's already an issue, and it is also definitely an issue that we want to consider. I love your idea about partnerships, right? And how do we do that? And I think 100%, if council directs us to move forward, I think as part of an RFP, we'll want to hear from the companies of like, what's your plan for this? How do you do it? Some places have done helmet rentals. They weren't incredibly successful. Yeah, it's a very tough issue. And it also goes along with safe infrastructure too. And so how are we providing this? But thank you so much for the comment.
And if nobody else has anything else to add, I just want to add to, let us be mindful of persons with different abilities, right? So if we're bringing in bikes or scooters or whatever, we definitely want to think about persons, with amputations and, even I'm not sure if you're looking at different age groups too, right? The young or the very old, but we want to look at those different abilities and special abilities because we want to definitely be an inclusive city. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Good. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. And Chris, what do you want us to do at this time? Do we have to go ahead and vote to move this forward?
No, there's no vote necessary in
Okay.
this one.
All right.
It's a discussion item, not an action item, so we can't vote on it
Okay.
anyways.
Wonderful.
So as long as we've satisfied what's our presenters are looking for here, as long as we've given them what they're looking for in direction, then we're good to move on to the next item probably.
Great. Thank you so much for coming. And if you need anything else from CODA, please go ahead and send it to Chris and he will let us know. But this is a very good conversation, and we're talking about transportation. So yeah, this is my forte. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to 8B. We do have a presentation from sustainability staff on land availability and a suitability study plus code analysis project, LAS plus CAP.
And thank you, Chairman Kidd. On this one, it's going to be a joint presentation from our sustainability staff and from our community development staff. So Jen Michelson will be leading the presentation. She's the housing planning manager from the housing section. And Genevieve Perthree will be the presenter or from our sustainability staff. So feel free to take it away. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thanks for the introduction. And you got my last name right. most of the time people say Mickelson. All right, I'm just gonna share my screen. Yeah, we've been kind of tag teaming a lot of these presentations with between whoever is like available. So I thought I'd take today's presentation, but I do have Genevieve Perthree with me. If you guys all have follow-up questions. Do you see the screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. Let me get it into presentation mode. Okay. All right. So yeah, so as the title suggests, we have I wanted to introduce this very, very large topic, or this very large project we have going on at the city. We refer to it as LastCap. Some of you may have read about it a little bit or heard a little bit. We've been making the rounds to all the commissions. And
hey, Jen, you're not in
Yeah.
presentation mode, just for what we're seeing.
Oh, it's not.
I don't know what you're seeing, but just want to.
Oh, okay. I pressed it, but let me maybe do the view. Slideshow? No, I'm sorry.
You were there.
I think if you go back to slideshow and you do from beginning.
From beginning. Hide slide. Okay, maybe. Does that make any difference?
So I have a little suggestion. On share, put it into slideshow and then share. Sometimes when you share, it gets icky.
Okay, unshare.
Yeah, put it into slideshow and then share. Sometimes you lose control when you share.
And I have like multiple screens, so I'm like,
Jen, do you want me to share and I'll just advance the slides?
I'm almost, let me see if this works. I don't know. I also have like multiple windows at work, so I'm like, okay, I think it's in slideshow. If this doesn't work, then yes.
That looks good, Jen. You got it.
Okay, and now the weird thing is my camera is on another screen. But anyway, okay. All right, so yeah, I'm just here to introduce a very large project we've been working on at the city in collaboration with the planning departments, sustainability, and housing. Like Chris said, I'm the housing planning manager in the housing section, and we're working on the LastCap project, which is, I guess, the quickest way to summarize what it is we wanted to look at, we wanted to understand how our city's codes may have some barriers to preventing a lot of our housing and climate goals. So we have sort of what kickstarted this plan, this project, is the fact that several years ago we've, as a city, we declared housing and climate emergencies. And as a result of those emergencies, we each have developed our own plans with different goals. And so this is sort of providing that this was like the top-down kind of direction for like identifying where we want to head. And the LastCap project was sort of born out of all of these goals. So with our 10-year housing plan, we have, it's a two-part goal. We want to increase the amount of affordable subsidies that are provided to Flagstaff residents. And we wanted to, of course, increase the amount of housing that we are able to bring online at the city, both market rate and affordable units. We do have a 10%, we have a goal that 10% of all new development be affordable. And then with our carbon neutrality plan, that also had some, really big community goals attached to it, like achieving carbon neutrality by 2030, and just that plan really laid out a lot of strategies to prepare our community to become more resilient as we're seeing impacts of climate change. And we also want to see that all of our mitigation and climate adaptation and mitigation measures are equitably distributed, and that we're prioritizing most impacted residents. So those are kind of like broad citywide goals, or I should say community-wide. These are community-driven goals that we have that the city is tasked with implementing, of course. So for the last couple of years, we've realized in order to really achieve these goals for ourselves, we needed to look at our codes, our development codes specifically, to see how they are getting in the way of increasing housing production and greener infrastructure and meeting our emission reduction goals. So the main last cap project is really two-part. We started off with a report, essentially like an assessment of our city land that we have available for residential development. So our consultants took a look at some, like, what are our prime areas in the city that are underdeveloped or completely not developed at all, that would be great sites for additional housing. And as part of that, also, they really took a look at infrastructure needs. So we do have, as part of that report, it's they were called opportunity sites. We have about 50 opportunity sites that were identified. Some of them are city-owned property, which is great because we know we have some land to help try to contribute to some of these goals. But the rest were privately held properties. And yeah, we wanted to be able to understand what's the low-hanging fruit and what properties will require a lot more coordination with, understanding gaps in infrastructure versus those easier infill parcels. So that was a really great start to the project that was conducted and completed last year, roughly. And then we were able to jump into the next, like the really nitty gritty, this really big code analysis project, the CAP, which has been broken out into several phases, really. We've had several, there are multiple deliverables as part of that code analysis project. And so the initial deliverable was a code diagnostic report, which essentially identified what our problem areas are, like what aspects of our codes are really creating hurdles as we develop. And so that there was a stakeholder outreach process. A lot of the really heavy users of our codes were consulted to try to understand, and the people who are building projects were interviewed and to try to understand what are your biggest hurdles, what is very expensive, what's burdensome, and that helped inform the consultants identify the next stage, which were code concepts for us to consider as a community. Like, given these barriers, here's some strategy here. Here's like some ideas we have for how you guys might change codes or amend codes and processes in order to be on I guess, to stay focused with our housing and climate neutrality goals. So that's where we're at. We're at this code concepts part. We've been sharing the results of that report, and we are. It's a very critical. I would call it. We're kind of like the peak of that part of the CAP because we're in this sharing mode. We need to start. We're trying to share the results of that and these recommendations with all of our community partners to see where we want to go as a community from here, because that feedback will help inform our final code recommendations, which you can see is our sort of last stop. So all of these documents I've been discussing, the report that looked at all of our land, a code diagnostic report, and the draft code concepts. that I mentioned, those are all posted to the city's website here. So if you guys all have a link to this PowerPoint, can get that for you, but that's where our project webpage is. It has all of this posted. And just so you're aware, we do have an upcoming work session with council. We've had several. We just kind of keep them in the loop about where we're at with this behemoth project. We're just kind of like, pushing it forward piece by piece. So we will be there on May 6th to catch them up. And we do have a community. It had been referred to as a town hall meeting in the middle of June this summer. That will be a really large, very key outreach meeting for us to have. But the details of that meeting are in the works still. I think we're still kind of game planning how to go about that meeting. And I've heard, I think we want to call it a community conversation rather than town hall. So for now, calling it a community conversation. That will happen in 2 months from today. So yeah, just where we're headed next. Like I said, we're in this public outreach process. We've been making our rounds to all the commissions and groups that are interested. We do have, for those that want to get kind of dig in into these reports and really kind of pick through some of these big topics and questions, the consultants identified some key decision points for us to discuss as a community. There's about 8, I think there's about 8 broad kind of topics that we really need to delve into as a community to try to understand where we want to go. These topics are things like narrower streets, more density, allowing more density in development, just to kind of give you an understanding of like how broad some of these topics are. So we will be conducting a lot of this outreach this summer to try to land on some direction, really, to understand what the community is interested in seeing as far as how far are we willing to go in these upcoming code amendments to help us reach some of these goals. So yeah, after this summer, we would expect to be able to relay to our consultant where we're landing on these key decision points so that they can then craft some final recommendations for us for how we might amend our codes to move these needles with climate change and housing. So and then this last item here, the preparation and adoption of the code amendments is like into the future. I believe we would be able to do most of that ourselves as staff. Like, for example, the zoning code it's a huge, very impactful code that we're really looking closely at with this project. And our colleague Tiffany Antal is a zoning code manager. She is already like creating, like prioritizing, we can make this code amendment change and I can do this one first and then we can do that one. So she's really great at developing a work plan to start getting our code adjusted. And so I think she'll be able to do that, once we have a final set of recommendations from our consultant. So how you all could get involved if you're so inclined. It might be easy to, I don't want to presume anybody on the call is thoroughly, familiar with, the development process or codes. I mean, we're talking everything from the engineering standards to the building code to, zoning code to, fire code. So if you just kind of want to start to dig into this content and understand where these conversations are, how they're happening, what they sound like, where they're going, you can start by listening to our Housing Commission meeting, which was recorded. That was our February meeting, and then the sustainability as well. We had some really great kind of in-depth conversations with those commissions since they are such big partners in this project. There's a lot of implications, right, for housing and sustainability with this project. So they have been great. We've had a couple work sessions with them each. So there's recordings if you'd like to listen into any of those. And of course, if you want to dig into the actual code concepts report, there's
there's a lot in there to work through. So if we kind of have recommended take the time to try to get an understanding of kind of what this project is, what is being proposed. And then if you have questions and you want to do like follow-up conversations and really kind of get into some of the weeds and try to understand particular subjects a little bit more thoroughly, please feel free to reach out to us as staff. And we've just found it's so much easier to kind of sit down and have these kind of open-ended discussions once you kind of looked at some things and have some questions like, oh, could you kind of get into this more and explain this part more? Because otherwise we would just be droning on for dozens and dozens of slides talking about really detailed stuff that you may or may not be interested in. So we've had some great one-on-one conversations as a group with different groups in town. So that is definitely available to you. And our contact information is here. This is kind of our core project team. Michelle McNulty is our interim community development director. I mentioned Tiffany Antal, she's our zoning code guru. Myself in housing, Genevieve, Pair 3 in sustainability, and Busy Collins is with Mountain Line. So that's all I have for this introduction to this big project. Hopefully not too overwhelming for everyone, but I'm happy to take any questions, and Genevieve as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. It is a lot of information. And for me, I have to do a lot of research too. So I am really happy and thankful for those links that you left in the last two slides. I would just like to caution, and I'm sure, again, you're probably already doing this. This is a huge project. I'm so happy that you're going to have town halls and meeting with the people, right? Just again, with all the changes that we have going on in our little city with the transportation and all of that, we want to be mindful that whatever codes you're having, it kind of connects with whatever transportation changes we're making, and also with the small businesses too. I'm hoping that you're speaking with the small businesses on how that will impact them, how it will impact people with the housing and all these different things. I'm just thinking of the ideal situation where one department speaks to the next, right? I could only hope, right? So I'm just hoping that all of this is taken into consideration. And thank you so much for inviting the community on the town hall meetings to speak, right? Thank you so much. Any other commissioners? Comments? Questions?
Yeah, I have a question actually. So if you could, I know you said you didn't want to get down to the real nitty gritty, but just a couple major bullet points of the findings and of the biggest challenges that come across with the current code and how it's written, and then how has it impacted development?
We definitely have a slide that shows the major findings from the code concepts. You have to navigate to it unless Genevieve already has her eye on these slides. Let me get there. Presentations. I'm just going to pick our.
Oh,
there we go.
I was talking. I didn't realize I was muted.
Oh, okay. Like, I can find it.
No, if you found a slide, go for it. But I was just going to give a high level answer to give you a chance to look for a detailed slide.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So basically, so the first part of that code analysis project, it did that code diagnostic report that Jen mentioned, where it did identify what's working, and what's not working as well in terms of meeting the city's climate and housing goals. So I think the way that I like to think about it is that it's kind of all the codes kind of come together like puzzle pieces. And so right now, like we have our density maximums, for example, which are actually fairly low compared to other cities too. So they're already fairly low. And then a lot of land is taken up by things like parking, landscaping, tree and slope protection, open space or common space requirements, things like that. And so then it makes it really challenging if someone like a housing developer is coming in for them to even meet the minimum or the maximum density that's allowed in that zone. So they're not even meeting the maximum density. And then as part of that report, the consultant did some prototype modeling. So they're looking at what kind of housing is our code actually producing right now. And so it looked at oh yeah, thanks, Jen. So it looked at basically, in a single family residential zone, what kind of stuff is actually getting built right now. And basically because of these constraints on what can actually be, how much land in a development site can be used towards actually building housing units, it causes developers to build larger housing units that are more expensive to purchase, as well as more expensive to operate. And then it looked at, okay, what's the sale price for those? And it did that with a lot of different housing prototypes. So it did it for single family homes, it did it for duplexes, it did it for attached townhomes, it did it for higher density development, but nothing really that high density. So still all kind of a lower density, but different housing types. And so it basically found that we're getting larger units that are more expensive, regardless of what type of building it is. And that's a really, really simplified overview. They go into it in a lot of detail. So definitely encourage, if you really want to dig into it, that report is posted online and it's all there. And it's pretty long, but it's pretty cool because I have these prototypes and it's really interesting if you want to nerd out on that, which obviously Jen and I do. So that's kind of a big finding there that just so going to the slide that Jen has, the development environment in Flagstaff is challenging because of construction, high cost of construction, high cost of land, things like that. But that, beyond that, there are things that our code maybe could change in our code to kind of make things a little bit easier. And so then moving on to this phase of the project, where this slide is kind of looking at, the consultant did look at, well, if we played with these levers, what would happen to the code? And so they found that reducing parking requirements made it easier to build higher density housing to get more units. And then there's different options for what we could do to address that. Could increase density across the city, could increase it in certain areas, depending on what, community goals, what council direction gives us basically. And then we had different scenarios, looking at kind of like they pulled on different levers, what would happen. So yeah, so I think Jen, I think this slide's more on the more recent stuff, and the code diagnostic report had kind of more details on really what in the code is currently a barrier. But does that answer the question? I know I gave a pretty long answer, but let me know if you have any follow-up questions.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was looking for, and I totally agree with what you found. I know we've done a study. I'm with Downtown Flagstaff, by the way. We did a study with a third-party company who does these things, and out of all of our peer cities, we have the least density within a downtown area, and by like a long margin.
I remember that plan. I can't remember the name of the plan. I think it's
Downtown Vision, and it was done by
yes. Yeah. I recall that takeaway as well. Yeah, thinking I thought that was really valuable information to know that we are where we are relative to peer communities.
Yeah, but definitely far behind, and increasing density, I think is one of the biggest things that should be focused on, and like floor limits were being hamstrung there. So I think it's definitely having a negative effect on development across the city, and if we can have more housing, then I think that'll help solve our housing crisis as well, and especially in areas with more density, then we'll have be less reliant on needing to have cars and all this transportation as well. So I think you're heading in a good direction.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you so much for that wonderful information and very in-depth. I'm into density and transportation and walking and biking too. So yeah, this has caught my interest. Anybody else? Any other commissioners? Or even public? All right. Hearing none. Thank you so much for your time, Genevieve and Jennifer. Thank you for spending some time with us. And anything else you'll need from us, if you have any type of surveys or anything to send for us to look at, we are here at your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Kidd. appreciate the time. And again, we are available if anyone wants to meet with us one-on-one. If you want us to come back to this commission, like there's a lot of options. But just I would definitely say as a first step, if folks want to dig in deep, look at all those resources that Jen shared, and then we're available as a resource for any follow-up discussions or presentations.
Great, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. All right, let's move on to item 8C, updates from working groups. Working groups, you have the floor.
I'm excited to share a library working group update this month. So Commissioner Riesenberg, I will be sending you an email later. We have a new point of contact with the library, and so I had an opportunity to meet with them yesterday. Oh, hi Amelia, they're here with us today. So we had a lovely get to know each other yesterday, and so I'll be reaching out to coordinate a meeting in May. I'm hoping that we can meet the first week of May. And so during that meeting, we'll review the new oral history release form that was approved, and we'll talk about some strategies on how we can support bilingual story time and drag story time. So super excited to keep that work moving forward.
Thank you. You said bilingual. Can we have multilingual? Am I pushing? Am I pushing? Tell me if I'm pushing.
Well, the languages that we were looking at were Spanish, Navajo, and ASL. And so during the working group meeting, we'll kind of talk about some strategies on how we can make those happen. But I'm not just thinking about one language.
Thank you. All right. Any other working group? Commissioner Darling?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really proud of what the group is doing. So we had a presentation from Ben Nicholas with some visions and possibilities. And Ben has put together a survey. We're going to work to collect some community data about where they would like to see it. And then we're working with Kaylee Quick is on our working group, and we're asking her to present just the process to get the asphalt art project started outside FALA, so that we can learn a little bit more about what that looked like. So I think we're really trucking along, and it's beautiful. I'm so blessed to work with some really amazing people. And that's where we are, but we're shooting for the moon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other working groups we have going on? Okay. All right. So let's move on to 8D, updates from Council Liaison. Did Councilwoman House dropped off?
I do not see her here anymore.
Yeah, I think she dropped off. I did see, yes, she did say she had a meeting to go to. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and skip to 8E, updates from staff liaison.
I don't have much today. I'm happy about that, but I think we've covered everything. This was a pretty packed agenda, so we got through it pretty good.
Yes, we sure did. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to item number 9, agenda for future meetings.
This is Commissioner Gabler. I just had a quick question.
Go right ahead.
Have we discussed what, if any, involvement that we are going to be having in the Pride Parade this year?
Thank you for the question. That is my update, actually. I was thinking I had one and I couldn't figure out what it was. Yes, I received an email. I received an email about a week ago, and I am so sorry. I was thinking there was something that I was missing, where we were invited to participate in the Pride Parade. That's exactly what that was. So we received that invitation to be in the parade. We've been in that the last couple of years. 2 years ago, we had a booth at the festival area as well. And frankly, it was a lot. It was a lot to do in both. I did it all, and I was very tired and sunburned by about 5 p.m. After all of that. So my recommendation that worked really well last year is that we do one or the other, but not both. And then that we coordinate on how we're going to acquire a vehicle and a banner and all that kinds of stuff. I know that former Commissioner Toner was heavily involved in that in the past, but we did get that invitation just recently, and I wanted to bring it up with you all today. So thank you for asking about that, because I can respond if we're interested in reserving a space.
So I agree. I think the participation in the parade is definitely probably better than the booth. And I mean, last year I know we used my husband's truck. We can definitely still figure something out for this year as well. I do also have the banner that we had from last year still. That is the Commission on Diversity Awareness banner. So I do still have that if we want to just reuse that. And yeah, I'm definitely open to jumping in and helping out with whatever our parade entry would be.
Yeah, and we're going to leave that open to the commissioners, which one they want to, which one we really want to put our efforts behind. I did both, so for me, either one is okay with me. So I'll just leave it for us to decide and discuss whichever one we want to participate in. And when is the deadline? When is the deadline for, sorry, I think I spoke over somebody. I'm sorry.
No worries, go for it.
Yeah. I just wanted to know, Chris, do you have the deadline when we need to send in our response?
Let me see if I can find it for you.
Okay.
While Chris looks that up, I just wanted to flag that the library working group tabled at Pride last year, and so we weren't with the CODA booth, we were with the library booth, promoting the oral history project, and we were kind of hoping to do that again this year. So just naming, I would not be available to be at the CODA booth because I would be tabling with the library.
And I think I'll pass by the library. Definitely.
It's the deadline for the parade entry is June 2nd.
Okay. So is this something that we can go ahead and email you, Chris?
Yeah, you can email me.
Our
It may
interest.
Yeah, and if the commission is generally interested right now, I'll just go ahead and reserve a spot on the parade for us, and I can bring it back as a discussion item next month, and we can talk about, who all will be participating and where to be and when and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. All right. So future meetings and any agenda items for future meetings?
Let me go ahead and
From anyone?
I'll pull up our
Parking lot.
Our parking lot, and I may have forgotten to include that this month just because we had so many things I was attaching. I was looking at we had like 80 attachments this week, and I may have slipped on that. So if I didn't send it out to you, I'm sorry about that. That's why it happened. And let me put it on the screen right now for you. Yeah, so we had both of these items today. I'm still looking to come back next month and give an update on a citywide anti-bullying policy. I want to talk to our city administration about that first, and then have some draft language to run by all of you to see what your thoughts are on it. I may also look to take this to the library board and the recreation board because they deal with these kinds of programs the most. Aside from that, I know that there was interest in hearing about an update on some of our transportation projects. So I'm going to see if I can get Jeff Bauman or someone else from his team to just give us an update on that, or at least maybe I can provide one over email to you all on it. But our future looks a little bit emptier than it did a month ago. We've gotten through a lot of these presentations that city staff were bringing to the commission. So if anybody has any other items they would like to see, I'm happy to add them to our parking lot to look to put an agenda in the future.
Yes, definitely. We can email you something. That will be great. And I saw something in the chat that there was a rumor that Pride and Juneteenth will be on different days this year. I think it's probably still a rumor until we can figure it out. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I believe that is true, actually.
Oh, it is. All right. Finally.
They're on different weekends this year. Yes.
Nice. Go ahead, Commissioner Darling.
Oh, you're still muted.
You're on
Commissioner
mute.
Sorry. I can speak to some of that. Flagstaff Pride is partnering with Juneteenth, and we'll be hosting, they'll be sharing a parade, and they will be, will host a Juneteenth market in Heritage Square on Sunday. And there'll be some of our Pride like stage will be dedicated to the Juneteenth group. But alternatively, there is another Juneteenth celebration that Katz, my other board, will be participating in, and that may be the one that's on the other weekend. That's happening at the Murdoch Center. So I think what's really exciting is there's going to be lots of Juneteenth celebrations that are happening this year.
Wonderful. Great.
And the one from Katz is the one that I'm aware of as well. So.
Great. Okay. Anything else for agenda for future meetings? If not, let's go ahead and move to item number 10, adjournment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Oh, go ahead.
Just quick, I noticed that the new city logo is sitting on the, sorry, I can't quite see what the table above is named. I wonder if we just need to clear that out.
Sure. And so I'll just note, for the purpose of a quick update, I'll go back to the staff liaison update here to give you what happened here. So our design team came up with a few designs that they went to council with, and council essentially tabled it. They were not interested in changing it at the time. It became a little contentious in that meeting, and it was a work session, so there was no vote or anything, but it was, we were not given direction to continue on the project. So I guess it's effectively dead at this point. There's kind of the update I can share. It was not the result we were looking for, and it was very sad to see it go that direction, but it's no more. It's kind of the gist of it. But thank you to Commissioner Sanchez for all the work over the last several months and year or so on it. It was a really good process, and I stand by all that. But council tabled it at the meeting a few weeks ago.
Thank you for that update, and thank you, Commissioner Sanchez, for bringing it up. Right.
I guess I just really like being able to see like all the different things. On the inclusive wayfindings, is there an update on that, or is there a need for a working group? Just wondering if anything has moved forward on that front.
I spoke to Henry on this about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, because there was a discussion on this, and we don't need to do anything else on this at this point. We sent it towards the Indigenous Commission, and as far as I know, it is still moving forward, but there were other groups that were probably more appropriate to be working on it than us, so it's going to be kind of in their hands. But it is not dead as far as I know. It is still moving forward, and I don't know who they're talking to exactly, but they seem to be in good shape. And Manny, is that your understanding as well?
I haven't heard much of it recently. I mean, I think we need to get the words in the right ears, and then it's, this would be have to be a city project. So
yeah,
I will always actively voice my support. I think it's something that could affect the whole city, but I don't have any more updates now.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? No. All right. We just want to make sure everybody is being heard and every item is being brought forward. That's why we have a team. Yes. All right. So item number 10, adjournment. I would like to adjourn the meeting of the Commissioner of Diversity Awareness today, Wednesday, April 16, 2025 at 3:04 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll go ahead and motion.
And the second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the ayes have it. Motion carry. Have a wonderful evening and see you next month. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you so much.